Hello friends, this is Joseph and Train from HoS Sound. The idea of HoS Sound is very simple. We want to help artists, promoters, and other people in the scene to share their message, their experiences, their learnings, and life lessons. And as a byproduct, we hope that some of these insights will help and inspire others. And that's exactly why we're gonna have chats and ask questions to some of the most interesting people in the scene. We hope you will enjoy. In this chat, we're gonna speak with Arjun Vagale. This guy has been around the block for 25 years. He's been producing for a long time and exploring different sides of music, eventually approaching to what we would call techno now. He's been releasing consistently over the years with his alias Arjun Vagale, and lately just launched a new project called Asymmetric. And in the chat, we discuss about both. He has a big and very packed gigs schedule. He used to play 100 gigs a year before, and is now probably reducing to 50 for a lifestyle choice. And trust me, we discussed with a lot of people, we met a lot of people in India, and he is one of the flagship names of the country. So it's been a pleasure for us to actually meet him in person. He's been releasing a lot under his own alias Arjun Vagale on labels such as Drumcode, Suara, Planet Rhythm, Trapez, and he also runs his own label Odd Recording with Ramiro Lopez. Aside from his already packed schedule, this man runs a producer academy in New Delhi called I Love Music. He also runs a booking agency called Unmute, and most interestingly, he also finds his life balance to allow him to spend more time with his wife and friends, which is always good to know from DJs who are performing so much. We got the chance to meet him in his place in Goa in India, and it was a fantastic experience because we saw also another side of his life, which is not just about production. In the chat, we cover a lot of topics. We go into his project, how he approaches production and music, what is behind his musical and creative ideas. And we also cover how to be bookable through time if you're a DJ or an artist, how you can get noticed. And bear in mind, Arjun lives in India, which is not the #1 place in the world for techno in terms of connection opportunities. So if we have a tough life here in Europe or in US, definitely people who are in other countries have a even tougher life in terms of making sure they have a supporting network, accessing opportunities, chatting and meeting with promoters, other DJs, and other people that you can collaborate with. We also discuss about focusing on process, which is in the end far more important than outcomes, and it makes you much happier. We discuss about social media, human needs of validation, and we cover a lot about the Indian scene as well. Without further ado, friends, welcome to Arjun Vagale. Arjun, thanks so much for being
a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Amazing. We're here in your house in Goa, in India.
Yes.
It's a beautiful place.
Thank you very much.
Spectacular.
It's home.
It's home for you.
Yeah.
We're in your studio, which is a beautiful studio, made up perfect, with air conditioning. So
well, you need it here because in Goa it rains 6 months of the year, and the monsoon's pretty heavy. So generally during the monsoon time, I'm out of the country, and that's the time I'm like touring and stuff like that. But it's also a very beautiful time to be in Goa because it's lush and green. The only thing is that you can't go out so much. So that's why I have my studio the way it is, so that I can spend days on days here if I need to, and I don't need to leave it.
Yeah, you made it a very comfortable place.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Great. And what are you up to these days beyond music? How is your life?
Life's good. I've been kind of doing this for a very long time. Like next year is going to be 25 years.
Wow.
So it's almost a lifetime worth of doing the music and gigging and touring. So of late I've taken kind of like a step back in a way. I'm making a lot more music and touring a lot less, which I'm really actually enjoying. And because of that, because of spending more time in the studio, I'm kind of sort of looking at other directions and not necessarily just forward to the floor kind of stuff. And I've been working on a lot of side projects, doing some art projects with some friends. So it's kind of been fun because I'm letting sort of the artistic side thrive more than me making music in a way for work.
Yes.
Like what most people generally look at, oh, I'll have a release, I'll tour with it, but now I'm kind of making music more because I want to make it and I want to make what I want to make. And I'm not sort of keeping it in any structure, and I'm just like sitting here and just putting everything on and just seeing where it goes. It can go anywhere. Sometimes it'll be an ambient track, sometimes it'll be like a drum and bass vibe, or sometimes it'll be really like deep and sad, or whatever. It's just like the artistic side. Yeah,
It's a great position to be in.
yeah, I mean, it's I've been kind of making a lot of, I've been making music for many years, but I've been also doing different styles of music for a long time. It's just that because one was always concentrating on the career and concentrating on getting on the right labels or doing the right gigs or whatever, the music making process was also very much like, since I was making dance floor music, I was also kind of being like very focused about it and trying to define my sound in a way or whatever. But then I realized, like, a couple of years ago, I said, I told myself that my sound is what I make of it, and to kind of let it run free and not so much about being in a structure or giving it too much importance as to where it should go. The making process is more important than where it ends up.
Absolutely,
way,
yeah. I think especially at the start of your career, when you're starting off,
correct,
you want to make it.
Correct,
right?
exactly.
So you need to find a way for that to work.
Yeah, correct.
I think once you find it, it's beautiful that you can actually find back what brought you there probably in the first
Yeah,
place.
absolutely. It's the pure love of it,
Exactly.
It's the, if you, I now I think more in the sense of, if you're an artist, then you need to make art.
Yeah.
It's, everything else is secondary. And I think now in the world we live in, it's more important than ever to actually make art, because there's so much shit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that's the fact. And making music is easier than ever.
Yeah.
I mean, you can make a track on your phone if you've got the right app,
Yeah.
So it's fun to kind of break away from what people expect you to do and do something that that excites you as a person.
Yeah. It's much more enjoyable. Like, you enjoy more the process for sure.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I think, the process is more, actually, the thing with what's happening now is that I enjoy the process of making music more than the end product.
Yeah.
Like, there'll be times I'll be sitting and I just keep I keep working, and I'm huge into the whole modular thing now. Like, I really have gotten into it, and I just sit here and make music, and I was like, shit, I should have recorded that because it's actually sounding really good, but the idea is gone.
Yeah.
But that was fun, and I step out of the studio with a smile on my face because I had fun doing it. Forget it if it's not recorded, or if it doesn't turn into a track.
Yeah.
The process is exciting.
It is
Yeah.
exciting, and like it's so interesting you say that, because I think I've been thinking about these things a lot. Like a lot of people who are satisfied with whatever they are in life,
Yeah.
they do the same thing. That
Yeah.
It's about the process. I love doing what I do
Exactly. Yeah.
more than what I get out of that.
Exactly.
as an outcome.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
which is beautiful. Like I think a lot of people, me included, and a lot of our friends as well, like they struggle with this thing of like, there's always like an outcome
Yeah.
at the end of
Yeah.
the process.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
if you focus too much on that becomes like, I don't know, it takes out a bit of the passion.
Yeah, and I mean, in a way, like, I get why you have to do that, because, it's a tough world out there. It's so competitive, and, you're constantly, like, fighting the odds. You're like, everybody's trying to get a piece of that small pie, and the pie is really small, and it's getting smaller and smaller. But as soon as people realize that they don't need to, like, just, there's a reason we got into music. It was because we loved music.
Yeah.
The listening of it, the making of it, the dancing to it, but then got too much about the business side of it, and and I think there's a change happening though. I see a lot of artists actually embracing this whole process of actually not going by formulas and breaking the norms, and I think it's a really, really interesting time. As much as there is crap out there, there's also innovative music happening now, I think, more than ever.
I think so, and then the democratization of the tools,
Yeah.
so having a Ableton or having a program on your phone,
Yeah, yeah.
to which you can do music,
Yeah.
is enabling much more. So
Yeah.
there is much more music that perhaps is not good.
Yeah.
But also there is also very interesting stuff
Correct,
coming out.
correct. Yeah, absolutely.
One question that came to mind is that so behind Asymmetric, your new
Yeah,
project.
yeah.
I think you wrote something about that on your social media. Probably I looked it up, and you were saying something like, "I always felt this music was more closer to me
Yeah.
than what I had to do before." So this was I almost wanted to separate that because I wanted to do something completely free.
Yeah, the thing is that like the whole idea for Asymmetric basically was I was making a lot of music which was not stuff that people would recognize as as stuff that I would have done under my own name. And initially the thought process was maybe I should just have it like a secret project and just put out music and not think too much about it. But then all my friends and all that were like, this whole secret project thing is also a bit weird because you should be proud of what you're doing. So I was like, okay, fine, it makes sense, and as my wife was like, music is great, like you should just put your name on it. But I was like, but I have to segregate it. The whole thing was like the first Asymmetric release is more, is more maybe dance floor oriented a little bit, but everything that's going to come after it is non-dance floor.
Yeah.
And most of the music that I made was not really dance floor music. It was very abstract and experimental.
It was before.
It's actually I made like maybe 17, 18 tracks last year in 2 months, just sitting and just, I was here in the monsoon. Like I said, there's not much to do. So I was in the studio and I was just like, that's it. Fuck it. I'm just gonna make whatever comes out and we'll see what happens in 2 months. And in 2 months I had made a lot of music. And the first idea was, okay, great. I'm going to put this out as an album. Perfect. But then the more I heard it and the more I played it to some of my friends, and they were like, this is not Arjun Vagale. This is something else. So that's when I was like, okay, we get another name.
Right.
We do something else with it. And so the first release has been a little bit more groove oriented, but the second release is going to be more, I don't want to call it ambient. It's going to be more beatless music and more experimental stuff.
Yeah.
So it's going to be slightly more weirder,
offbeat,
yeah, kind of stuff. So let's see.
And even the name that you chose, you picked Asymmetric, like it's also like speaks for itself.
Well, actually, that was the reason I thought of the name, was because of all the other music, not the stuff I've actually put out right now. The stuff I put out right now is still okay. It's not 4x4 or it's not whatever, but it's still not as weird as the stuff that's going to come out next.
For sure, and it's very interesting because like one of the questions that I had in mind was, is there a point where you would suggest to an artist to actually create a separate project with a different name?
Honestly, I don't think today you really need to do that.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, people made aliases because, they were putting out music on different labels, they were releasing records, and most of the times the records didn't have any PR, they didn't have any marketing, they didn't have, nobody was thinking of charts and stuff like that. Today, I don't think it's that relevant to kind of put out music under various different names. And the only reason I did it was because I've got such a long history of putting out more techno, which is, a certain structure, I would say.
Yeah.
And just because I broke it, I wanted this music to break out of that structure and have the creative freedom to sort of do something. So, yeah, maybe it's a good idea to do it later in your career when you kind of know that, if your name is very well established with one particular style.
Yes.
And, the reason I did it was because I wanted the music to have a fair chance for people to listen to it, Because if I put out a record now, and if it's an Arjun Vagale record, people will have a preconceived notion that, I know it's going to be like a dance floor track or whatever, But if I put an asymmetric track out, then they won't know where it's going. And that's my whole idea for the aliases, so that I can, with this, take any direction I want. If I want to put out a drum and bass record on the asymmetric name, I'm going to do that. So there's no I'm not bound by any style, and that's the reason I wanted to just make a alias. I'm still going to put out music under my own name. In fact, I have a release coming out in Jan. I have one coming out now on a compilation. So that's going to keep happening. I mean, I love techno. I mean, I'm not going to ever go from it. You know, this is just the side thing which I want to just do to keep my soul happy in a way.
It's creative freedom.
Yeah, exactly.
You both
creative
call yourself
freedom.
creative freedom. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just a outlet for me to put out whatever else I'm doing apart from techno.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. It's I think it makes less sense for producers who are starting off their career because then they are fighting for exposure and
Yeah.
having two different analyses. It's harder for people to remember.
Correct. And I think also for young producers to have, you know, versatility is good actually, you know. If you put out various styles when you're young, you also get that thing of, okay, you're an artist who can do various things, you know, various zones and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. And there are very good examples of artists that are very eclectic.
Yeah, exactly.
Aphex Twin,
Exactly. I mean,
one of the biggest names.
Totally.
One thing that I've read in one of the previous interviews you released was that you always think about, this is about your Arjun Vagale alias.
Yeah.
You always think about what is the vibe that, where the track is going to be played, like the effect that it's going to have on people.
Right. Yeah, I think, I mean, the thing, like when I make music, like I don't really come into the studio with an idea of, you know, a melody or, you know, that kind of idea. The way I generally work is I more want to make music for, you know, thinking about a vibe that I've had, or, you know, it's less about melodies or what the grooves should be like. It's more about the atmosphere that the track should sort of create. So when I'm making like techno, I'm always thinking, I've got in my mind, okay, if I want to make like a peak time track, or like if I'm making a deeper one or whatever. So it's always more about where the sort of atmosphere of the track, where it'll be played, and that's what kind of inspires me towards making that track in a way.
Got it, yeah. So you try to get a vibe.
Correct, yeah. It's more about the vibe for me than actually the melody or whatever that goes into it.
Yeah. And it's always like something oriented toward clubs, or you imagine also different vibes. So I'm listen to it. Or...
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm making, like, for me, the techno side of things is more about, you know, it has to be played for an audience that's dancing, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you want to make it for the dance floor. So, I mean, whether it's a club or a warehouse or a festival or whatever, it goes in that way, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, more so.
That my guess is that inspired you already. So that kind of vibe, like the club vibe, the dancing vibe, inspires you. So
exactly.
That's what you translate into your music. And how does so one thing that I've read as well in another interview is that you mentioned that was 2 years ago, I think, the Indian scene, electronic music scene, was exploding. Has that exploded yet?
You know, I think the scene kind of it's exploded in a way that how do I put it? There are good things happening here. There are a lot of great artists. There are a lot of great people coming in. We always have now, you know, a whole bunch of sort of great international talent that's coming in. So in a way, it's exploded, but it's become like, you know, a jungle. So it's exploded not in a very systematic manner, but it's just growing from all corners and all sides. Is it a good thing? I don't know, but it's definitely getting out of control, because in the end of the day, you know, the audience is still very, very small.
Yeah.
So if you have two clubs that play great music and you have X amount of crowds, they'll be split between two. But if you have 120, the crowd is still the same, you know? So that's the difference.
So it's not like so there are different pockets of where the Indian scene is developing.
Yeah.
And that is creating like people listen to more and more.
Yeah, people are listening to it. People that, I mean, it's growing for sure. I mean, we have some great festivals here. We have, you know, amazing artists actually coming out of India also, you know. The young guys are really, really talented. They're doing fantastic music. Yeah, I think it's gonna get better and better for sure, you know. Like the only way is up.
Yeah, no, for sure. And how hard it is for an Indian artist who's just starting off, how hard it is for them to get noticed by a promoter abroad? Visa, of course, is a big challenge.
You know, that's the tough thing actually, because as India is very cut off. You know, you're not in Europe where you're in the center of things. You're kind of in Asia. young artists, how do you get out? You can't meet promoters, you can't meet DJs, you can't meet all these kind of people. Sorry. So it's tough for them to kind of get the word out.
Yeah.
So they have to make music, and that's the only way to get signed to some decent labels, get a little exposure. It's tough. And honestly, like if I was a young artist now, I don't know if I'll be able to if I would be able to do it, because it's really tough. The competition is insane.
Competition is insane.
It's like it's really cutthroat.
Yeah, it is insane in Europe as well, like in US as well. We face the same problems, and I guess one thing that for us works a lot is the network. When you are
absolutely, that's the opportunity of networking here is very, very limited, because you can only network if some artist comes down, but you can never network with festival owners or club owners and stuff like that. So the only way your sort of name gets out is if you make good music.
If you release,
that's the only way.
Is there anything that worked for you, like in your career? Could be release, could be playing in a specific party that brought you on the map.
I mean, it's the music. I think that's the only way that I've got out is through the music.
Mm-hmm.
There was no other way to get my name out there.
Yeah.
Like I said, there were no opportunities, and India was very closed.
Mm-hmm.
And even now, it's opening up a bit. But still, to get anywhere in life, you need to release music, and that's the only way you'll get exposure.
Yeah, I believe so too. And you release on Drumcode, for instance, which is a super visible label. A great label has been there for 20 years.
Yeah.
How did that came about? Was that something specific you did before that helped you?
He was playing a lot of my music, that I had put out earlier. And he came to India for playing. He was playing at a festival in India, and that's when I met him for the first time. And we hung out, and we were chatting, and he told me he really liked my music and stuff like that. So we kept in touch for a couple of years. He was playing more of my stuff that I was putting out.
Yeah.
And eventually, how did it happen? Eventually, like, he just sent me a mail one day, and he told me, he's like, we should get you on the label, and if you have anything, send it to me. So I had a couple of tracks that I had lying with me, and I, kind of just at a whim. It was like, the track. If you heard the track, it's not a typical Drumcode track, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, I have this. If you like it, let me know. And he just mailed back and he said, yeah, I love it, let's put it out. And that's kind of how it happened.
Got it, yeah.
And it was very organic the way it happened, and it was never a label. I loved the label, but I never thought of actually releasing on it. But it did really well for me because it put my name out there more. And I was, of course, very grateful to Adam for it. And he's a super guy, and he's been very supportive, and
it's amazing. Yeah.
And he's been playing my music for years, so it was kind of nice to see that translate into a release.
It makes a lot of sense. And were you sending him promos, or he was finding your music through other channels?
Well, he found my music himself actually, and then since I saw he was playing the music, I got in touch with him, and when he came to India, that's when we actually connected.
Perfect. Yeah.
And since then, and that was good, like 4 or 5 years, maybe, I was sending him music, all my promos of all my releases, and, and some unreleased stuff and things like that. I was sending him a lot of music, yeah.
And it makes sense. It's something that I've observed for myself, but also for a lot of friends and other people, that, like, I think personal relationships always plays a big role, because people...
100%.
Exactly.
100%. I think personal relationship is the only way to make a solid network with somebody.
I think so, yeah.
If you don't have that, and it's like we were saying, that because there's so many artists and producers and stuff out there, if you don't have a personal connect, most people, they won't even bother listening to it anymore, because, somebody like him probably gets like 100,000 demos a day.
Exactly.
So how much time do you have? So if he knows you, he'll at least listen to it.
Yeah, exactly. Give it a shot, and if the music is good, that's always crucial. Like,
of course, then it depends on the music. If the music is good, then you make it. If not, then you try harder.
You try harder, try a new one.
Yeah.
And a couple of more things on your path, and then maybe it would be nice to speak about your recent projects.
Sure.
I know you do a lot of stuff.
Sure.
Was there a turning point in your career? Do you consider like an event, a person release that made you believe much more in yourself and what you were doing, and made you think that it's possible to do this as a career?
Well, I started very young. I started DJing when I was 16.
Mm-hmm.
And like professionally DJing when I was 16. So was there a turning point? I guess I always knew I was going to get into the music side of things some way,
Yeah.
And I don't think there was actually a turning point as much as there was hard work for many, many years. It was just, I was fighting one battle after the other and taking one step at a time. And, that's why like some people like, when I go to play somewhere, especially internationally, they're like, oh, it's really good to see an Indian come up and, they might not have known me, but maybe heard of me a couple of years ago. But actually, I've been doing this for 25 years. So,
Right, yeah.
so I've taken every step has been a process to do. It's been a journey rather than one turning point and suddenly my life changed. No, I think it was one step. Literally for the last 25 years, I've been taking, because it's tough being here because you're so cut off from the world.
Yeah. I can imagine.
Yeah.
So great stuff.
Yeah,
Congrats,
I'm very proud of everything I've done, and obviously the music landscape in India and all the producers and the festival guys and the promoters, they're all very proud of what I've done, and of these. There are a bunch of us who've been doing this for a very long time.
Yeah.
And the support structure is very good that we have in India because they've all seen us struggle, and every battle is one battle that you win or one thing that you earn. So it's never been that, something big has happened and suddenly, you're getting gigs. No, it's like you got to hustle all throughout.
Yeah, of course. I need to keep pushing. You need to keep
correct.
doing your stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I know you have your own label, Odd Recordings. Was that something you consider as being instrumental for your growth as an artist?
Yeah, this is actually my second label. The first label I had started was a label called Maktab Music, which was started maybe like 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And with that, my idea was more, that's when I started becoming a bit big internationally.
Yeah.
So my idea was to push more Indian artists. And with that label, we used it as a platform for, launching quite a few Indian producers' careers.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. And a lot of them are doing really well. So that label I ran maybe 8 years or 10 years. And then there were a lot of labels that started up in India that were doing the same thing.
Right.
So I was like, okay, since there are more people doing it, I'll stop that. And that's when Ramiro and me started Odd. And Odd is a full-blown international proper label. We've got artists from all over the world.
Yeah.
It's doing really well. And of course, it definitely helps in the way people look at me as an artist, having my own label. It's definitely helped.
Yeah, and it gives you also creative freedom as well.
Correct. Now I can put out stuff that I really like, and I get a lot of music from people all over.
Yeah.
So we don't do that many demos and things like that because with the label we decided we don't want to make it like a gigantic, big label putting out music all the time. We want to put out releases that we like.
Yeah, that makes sense. Would you recommend to an artist to start their own label or try to get on bigger labels?
I think 100%.
Yeah.
I think starting your label now in the world we live in is a great idea because it gives you the creative freedom to put out what you like.
You have a platform,
it goes two sides. Of course, you can put out some shit and nobody will buy it. But if you have conviction in your music, then there's no better feeling to own your own music and put it out yourself and have creative freedom, whether it be the artwork or the music or the marketing or whatever way you want to put it out.
Yeah, exactly. And once you start having fans of the label, then it's kind of a two-way communication. You have fans. You have a discussion with your fans.
Correct. Yeah.
And
it's also like your home to. You do your home up the way you like it,
Yeah.
You invite the people into your home the way you invite people anywhere else. So it becomes a nice little creative family.
Yeah.
Who you can interact with.
It is, exactly. And then you have kind of a signature sound of the label.
Correct. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
You also been releasing a lot. Like I came across your music with I think you did on Planet Rhythm.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was probably a year and something ago.
That was the first one. Yeah.
And the track was "And There Was You."
And There Was You,
which is a broken track. I love broken stuff.
Okay.
So, and I really like the track. And you've been releasing a lot. Like I know your music. I've checked your Discogs. You've been doing tons of releases.
Yeah, I've had like a lot. Yeah. Like I said, over 25 years, the discography is quite big.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I make a lot of music. I'm constantly making. It's for me, making music is a release.
Right.
You know, it's I love it. Like we were talking about the process. I love the process of making music.
Yeah.
And so I make a ton of music, and I play live as well. So you know, to play live, I do a lot of jamming and stuff like that. Some of it is recorded, some of it gets converted to tracks. So yeah, but I don't release that much anymore now. I've kind of like, you know, I'll make it, but it may not come out. But yeah, the history is very long.
The history is very long. Yeah.
History is long. Yeah.
It's a great thing to see, actually. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And you also have another thing that strikes with me is that you have Odd Recordings, your label.
Yeah.
The previous label before. You have two projects now musically. You run a booking agency called Unmute.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stuff. Like
I have a music school also in New Delhi.
Yeah, music school. Wow. Okay.
Music Academy. Yeah. I mean, like I said, when you've been in the game for so long, you try and it's like, I mean, it goes back to the same thing of being in India.
Yeah.
Now, Unmute was the first booking agency in India, first professional booking agency in India. They didn't exist.
Right.
So I needed a booking agency to handle my own gigs because I was touring a lot. I was doing like 100 gigs a year and stuff like that.
That's a lot, yeah.
You know, and I was like, I can't handle this, and I need somebody to handle it.
And you found someone. Did you find that someone who was a friend? Or
yeah. So my longtime manager, basically, I started the agency with him because he was the manager. Before I started, before I was doing my solo stuff, I had a band called Jalebi Cartel.
Same music? Or I mean, it was
so
different?
we were doing more progressive, like more... it was kind of like the Indian answer to like Underworld and Chemical Brothers. It was a band, 4-piece band.
Very interesting.
You know, we had percussions, a bassist, you know, computers, blah, 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 all that stuff. And we were touring a lot as a band. And... so he was my manager, Dave, at the time, was doing all our bookings, and he was handling all the logistics. And so when I went solo and started doing my stuff under my own name, I told him, I said, I think it's the right time that we now start an agency because I definitely need one, but I know a lot of other guys could benefit from it. And so we started Unmute, which became sort of, it was probably the first pro agency in India.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we started the school in Delhi because I was like, okay, we need to give back and we need to help educate the younger generation. You know, I had already been doing it back then for maybe 12 years when I was in the business. So it was important to lay the foundation for the next generation. Like, how can we help them, empower them? And obviously now the internet is blown up and information is very available. It wasn't so much back then in India. Internet was still very, very slow, and you know, you didn't have the infrastructure that you have now. You know, now of course everything's available. Yeah. But even like knowing about software and forget hardware. I mean, you can now buy maybe some synthesizers in India. Back then, 10 years ago, there's nothing. Like,
so you had to import or
everything. So
find them first.
Correct,
and import,
exactly. So that's why, like, I mean, like when I bought my first Moog, I had to get in touch with Moog and, you know, tell them I need one in India. And they were like, oh shit, how do we get one to India? And blah, 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 customs, this, that. It was a nightmare.
Yeah.
And yeah, so, and my Moog is like in the school, but it was tough. So the idea for the school was that we need to make a space where we can help the next generation sort of, you know, grow, give them a platform, teach them, encourage them, educate them. You know, everybody wants to play digitally, but you know, I started with vinyl, so for me it was important that no, you have to learn on turntables. So that's how we designed the course in the school, and you know, so now it's good. Like kids who come out of it, they're well-rounded. They're not you know, they know the foundation, they know the basics, you know, which I think is very important to have a career in music. If you don't have, you know, those foundations right, then you won't get very far.
And by providing the support network, providing support infrastructure, I think you are really helping people develop that foundation.
Absolutely, and that was the main objective of it, was to actually have some support system, a place where, you know, somebody can come and actually look at a keyboard and look at a synthesizer rather than just seeing a VST, because they've never seen a real one.
Yeah.
And then we tell them that the software came second, this came first. For them, it's the other way around. You know, they learn on software and then they go to hardware. You know?
What is this machine like?
Yeah, exactly. They don't know. You know, the first time they see a drum machine, they're like, "Oh, cool," but I can do it on my computer. I said, "Yeah, well, your computer's emulating that."
Yeah.
That's if you learn this, you know that like that.
Yeah.
You know?
And so the music academy, which is, I think is called I Love Music.
I Love Music.
Yes. And you do DJ courses, production courses,
yes.
music theory, I guess.
Correct.
Wow. Okay. It's amazing. Yeah.
It's a. I mean, we do. I mean, and the courses even have management classes. They have networking classes. You know, so we try and give them a little bit of everything. That so once you get out, you're actually ready to step into the field and actually try and look for gigs or go find a residency and you know.
Which is something that surprisingly, perhaps, it's. I've been through a music school.
Right.
We have friends that are in music schools in London.
I went to SAE, you know.
SAE.
I went to SAE in Singapore in 1999, you know, and there were no schools, there was nothing. And I went to SAE and SAE didn't have any electronic music back then.
Oh, really?
Yeah, zero. So I went there and they were teaching me about mics and shit. And I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? I want to learn about synthesizers. And they didn't have anything in the school. So I learned myself, but the knowledge was amazing, you know, of course. You can't beat the knowledge.
It is. Flamina went to SAE as well.
Exactly.
In London,
Yeah.
but I did electronic music production,
Correct.
so it was just there for like 6 months, and we did have like a studio with synthesizers.
Correct.
And stuff.
They didn't have all that back in the day,
Yeah.
you know. Like, and that's what I thought. I'm going to learn audio engineering, and I learned about production and synthesizers and stuff. They didn't have anything.
Yeah.
They had like a nice big desk, and that's it.
Mixing, because that's probably what.
Yeah.
But it also, what I think it sometimes is missing in courses is that they teach you the technical side. However, there is also the part of like promoting your music, get the music out there that is completely left out. Yeah. So.
Yeah, we do a lot of that. In fact, like, I mean, we have a lot of guest lectures coming into the school. So, like, obviously now I have a pretty good network, and I know a lot of artists who keep coming down. So anytime there's an artist playing in Delhi, I always ask them, do you want to do a quick thing at the school? Even if it's a short 1 hour thing. We do like a question answer session. We've had guys who've done breakdown of tracks, like, Mo Drumcell is a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
And he's come to India a few times. So every time Drumcell comes, we do like, an extensive workshop with him, and the kids get inspired by looking at artists like that. We've also had, I mean, I'm not, with the school, we try and not go too much in the commercial music direction. But sometimes we have some big artists, like I think we've had one of these big EDM guys come in there as well. So they get a side of what that side of the world is about.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
for sure. And it's important. I mean, it's part of
correct.
music.
It's about educating them across the board. Then it's their decision which direction they want to take.
Yeah, amazing. And we'll make sure we put all the links in the show notes.
Yeah, I'll send you everything.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. And I had another question that it came to mind. I've forgotten now. I lost my train of thoughts.
No worries.
So how do you split your time? Like, how do you have a structure in the week that you say, okay, I dedicate this time to a mute, this time to the label, this time to my own production, or is like?
Yeah, there is a broad structure actually. So the week is like kind of if I'm back home on like Sunday, most of the times. I mean, most times you don't have gigs on Sundays. Back on Sunday, Monday is completely a rest day. Tuesday I spend doing all admin work. So whether it's working on bookings with Unmute or with the school, Wednesdays is generally Ramiro and me and Antonio, my label manager. We try and have a label meeting every Wednesday, almost every Wednesday, at least twice a month.
They live here in Goa? Or
No.
Online?
He lives in Spain, so we're on Skype and we have a good 2-3 hour. What's the next plan and whatever we need to do for the next releases and stuff like that. And and then the rest of the week is either studio or me hanging out with my wife and cooking and just
having a shit life, normal life,
trying to have a normal life.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, me and my wife have been together for like 15 years.
Wow.
We've only been married for like 5 or 6 or whatever, but we've been together a very long time. So we've known each other. She's seen me grow from a relatively small artist to somebody who's touring a lot. So the sacrifice is that I'm out every weekend and she's not, So now I'm like, okay, I'm not traveling that much, so we try and spend more time together, whether we cook or go out and meet our friends or whatever, just do like normal stuff, I guess.
Is she into music? She produces or
no, not at all. She's a writer. She used to write for magazines, and she used to do a lot of travel writing and food writing and stuff like that. And she writes. She's not into electronic music at all. So she loves jazz and she likes old school hip hop and world music and Fela Kuti and those kind of things. So it's really nice because when I get out of my studio, I'm listening, and we've got music playing in the house most times because she's really into music. She's as much I am into my electronic music, she's into hers. So she's constantly educating me on that stuff, and then I kind of a little bit to her.
Yeah.
But she's educating me a lot, and I love it because it influences me a lot, tremendously.
Yeah,
especially now, where I'm kind of pushing this experimental style myself. I mean, we're listening to jazz records and stuff like that, and I'm like, crazy time signatures, and how these guys are. They're just like insane musicians, and it's very inspiring.
Yeah, exactly, and it gives you a different perspective. Otherwise, you end up doing the same things.
Absolutely.
Over and over.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm not in the studio, we actually very rarely listen to electronic music outside of this room. Very rarely. I might, if I come across a really good album, I might play it for her. Who had a really good album that Alessandro Cortini, his new album. I mean, I'm in love with it. And I was like, you gotta listen to this. And I was playing it to her. She's like, yeah, wow, okay, that's good. So even Telephone Tel Aviv's new album is just like beautiful. So stuff like that I'll take out of this room. But apart from that, I just keep the electronic music in this room so that she can play the music in the house, and it's really inspiring.
Amazing, yes. And I think that inspires you. It helps you also
100%.
detach from
it clears your mind, because sometimes it's a different perspective in life. And I feel like that staying away from the electronic, there have been times where if I'm not playing for a couple of weeks, I'll be like, okay, I'm not going to listen to anything electronic and just like let my mind clear out of these things. And most times you come back in and you've got like, okay, ideas keep flowing.
Hey, it's amazing because sometimes like actually you get more inspiration for something that is completely different.
Absolutely.
Then you bring it back to your electronic music, whatever you do.
Absolutely. It's really lovely. And even like earlier when I used to travel and I'm listening to music on my headphones, I was always listening to like whatever what I want to play or whatever. Now I just don't do it. I just like I'll get on Spotify and I'll make a playlist of just weird random stuff.
Yeah.
And I just feel my mind is so much more clear. Right?
I agree,
it's strange.
It's counterintuitive.
Yeah, exactly.
But it works.
Yeah,
like,
it really
totally.
works. Yeah, it really works.
Totally. Amazing. Before we wrap up, I'll ask you two more questions.
Sure,
so
absolutely.
we go in the wrap up mode. What do you think, one suggestion that for artists to, what can help an artist get bookings throughout the years? So you've been on the scene for a long time. Now you've seen a lot of things.
Yeah.
Any suggestion you would give to an artist who is there already, is playing quite a bit? What makes them bookable for throughout the years?
I think it's like we said earlier, networking is extremely important. And then consistency. I think, one thing I see a lot of young artists, the mistake they make is they think, oh, I've done this. Like for example, you have one really great release. And you're like, okay, this release is going to carry me forward. But more often than not, because of the world we live in today, music, the actual value of music is so shitty that nobody remembers anything because, the world has ADD. Attention levels are so small, and I mean, you can make the most amazing track ever. But the fact is, the shelf life of that track is 2 weeks.
We've seen we run a label as well, and we've seen that.
Dude, I just realized the label you run, it's fucking cool. Like,
thank you. Thank you.
I was just hearing.
That's us.
Yeah, it's like I was hearing VSK's new track, and then I realized it's your label because I didn't know you were trained, right?
Oh yeah.
So I didn't connect the two.
That's crazy. So now we know each other.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But it's exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
I remember we'll have to do the promo. We'll send you all the other promos.
Oh please, yes, that would be amazing.
Yeah. And we just realized that there is a shelf life. Like basically people can take an interest if they hopefully like the music. Yeah. Then 3 weeks after it goes down. So
nobody remembers it. Yeah.
Nobody remembers that. Yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, like I've been, and obviously because of running labels, and I know I'm sure you guys do the same. It's like I always, in 6 months I look at all the statistics.
Yeah.
And look at Spotify statistics and stuff, and you'll see this big spike when the release is out, and then boom, nothing. Yeah. Like not even like 1 week, maybe 5 days sometimes for some release, and you're like, what the fuck? It's so sad.
But going back to what you said before, like it's such a saturated market that and people you can listen to techno like for 12 hours a day. Yeah. You probably have half an hour of techno.
Exactly.
You fit 6 tracks.
Yeah.
That's it.
Exactly.
That's the space you dedicate to techno in your life. What we figured out that works a lot for us is whenever we have a new release, we create a new bundle with previous releases, which include the new releases plus other ones.
Yeah.
And that actually brings a lot of more attention to also the back catalog.
Right, correct.
Works really well.
Yeah. That's
people
really
love it,
yeah. Because, that's true, because, people don't even remember half the stuff that you put out, know. And to give the music a chance to actually be heard, because that's all one wants, is the music to be heard. That's it. I mean, that's why you're making the music, right?
Well, what is something you wish you knew before, 5 years ago?
Don't take life too seriously. I mean, I think that's one point which I keep telling a lot of people today, that this obsession with Instagram and social media, and nobody really gives a shit. Nobody really cares at the end of the day, because they're numbers, right? I mean, and you can be flavor of the month and do something really big, but what's more important is the real world that you live in and the stuff that you do for if you I often think about now, because of so many years into it, that legacy is important. What are people going to remember you for? And I think that's I should have learned this many years ago. Do people really care about how many followers you have and what you ate for breakfast and all that? Nobody gives a shit about all that stuff. Make good music, and maybe it doesn't last. Maybe people won't, appreciate it right now. But somebody digs up your back catalog and finds a track, and there's this track I made called Terra Cause, right? 10 years ago. And it was more a tech housey kind of track. But there are people still who come up to me and tell me, dude, that track of yours. And young people. And I'm like, you actually know that track? It's really weird. But there are some people who dig. So I the advice that I would give myself is that do what you're doing with the music. And, because for a long time, your perspective changes. And like I said, being in India, for us to get our name out or to get our for people to know us, you have to put out content and you have to kind of show the world who you are and whatever. And I think it's not important.
I think it's not important, and especially if that is something you don't do because you like. It process an outcome.
It's work at the end of the day. And I've seen so many, even friends of mine who are artists. They have social media schedules and stuff, and I'm like, man, how much time do you spend on this shit? You could be spending that in the studio and doing something creative, And I mean, I did it for a while. No, I'm not gonna lie about it. Initially, and I just came to the realization of it's too much effort. Yeah. It's too much of your brain being put into something that's not important.
Well, it's comforting to hear this from you.
Yeah. I've actually learned it from my friends too, and people who've been in the business for a long time, and I've seen the way they do things, and I'm like, we don't all have the answers, but I guess we all inspire each other, and I learn from people who've come before me, or even people, my peers and people around me, and okay, they seem to be doing something right by not, putting too much of their attention into this, and their music is so much more is deeper, and it actually means something, whereas a lot of the hype train artists, it all sounds the same, like the same shit they did 5 years ago. All the releases sound the same. I mean, they don't even change the damn kick drum most of the time.
Yeah. And I think, also detaching from trying to seek validation, external validation, that's another big thing.
exactly this validation from complete strangers. Why do you need it?
Yeah.
You know,
It's true.
just
I think being human, we are attracted from that.
correct.
We have-
I read this book. The guy in the book says that as humans strive for validation, constant validation. And it's very interesting the way he put it, where he said that, you know, the more we say that, oh, look how hard I work, and, you know, people around you be like, oh, he's a hardworking guy, and they want to sympathize with him.
Yeah,
you know, and I think that's just like the shittiest thing to get ahead in life through sympathy. Like, be known for your art, not for, you know, I'm a hardworking guy. And for a lot of people, like, you know, again, this whole thing of being in India, a lot of Indian artists now, like, you know, I have it tough, I'm in India. And I'm like, fuck you. It's okay, we've all had it tough, we're in India, we're all doing it still.
Yeah.
Like, you know, push ahead. And, you know, you're not going to get any extra points just because, you know, you live in India and you have a tough life. Nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
Nobody really cares. You know, if you want to be heard, you want to be, you know, you want to make it out there, just work harder. And I tell the Indian guys, like, you have to work double hard. You know, there's this kid called Dot.Dat. I don't know if you've heard of him. Young producer from India, from Pune. Very talented kid. And I've known him for many years. He's somebody who's got this real drive and motivation. And we keep talking, and, you know, I mean, he's very young, so, I mean, I try and help him and give him as much advice as I can, because I think he's got what it takes to take it to the next level, you know. And a lot of times his thing is that, you know, I'm stuck and I want to do, and, you know, I'm not getting this opportunity to do it. And I'm like, you know, it's sad, but nobody's going to give you the opportunity, and for you, it's doubly hard. So if you get an opportunity, you need to milk it. And he started doing really well. You know, he won the Beatport contest, which was some, whatever. Now, Panpot are his mentors for a year.
Perfect.
He's got a release on Second State coming. So I said, you know, take it and squeeze the hell out of it. Get
whatever you can.
Every drop. Just get whatever you can, because that might lead to 10 other connections, and you know, you don't know what doors will open.
Yeah.
So I said, especially you being from India, you need to play the I'm in India, I need more time, and, you know, listen to my music, blah blah blah. And I like guys who've got drive, you know.
It's an amazing thing, and I think maybe would not knowing him, I don't know, but like maybe what he needs is just a bit of push.
Correct.
Someone who tells him, like, just push, you
Correct.
know, go
Exactly.
for it.
Yeah, that encouragement is very important.
Yeah.
And that's one really good thing that I think the Indian scene has is like I was saying, it's a big country with a lot of people, but the scene is very small.
Yeah.
You know, so there are like only a handful of really great producers and DJs. Well, DJs a lot, but a handful of really great producers, and they all encourage each other, which is very, very nice about the scene.
It's perfect. Like, supporting network it's a huge thing.
Yeah, it is.
It makes you
really
go through
important.
hard times.
Correct. Yeah.
And it's great.
Yeah.
This has been amazing. Yeah. Really good to meet you. Really
My
good to have a
pleasure.
chat.
I'm glad we got to do this. Yeah.
The last thing in the recording,
Sure, of course.
where can people find your work?
Pretty much everywhere. Streaming is on all the streaming platforms. To listen, of course, SoundCloud and stuff like that. A lot of my music's are on vinyl, so of course all the record stores.
Perfect.
Luckily, like, I mean, one thing I really try and do is to work with good distributors and things, because that's the only way to get, you know, your music sort of out there, and, you know, the way things are. I mean, I honestly wanted to do this release as like a hand stamped, you know,
Asymmetric one.
Yeah, asymmetric, just super low key, you know, no artwork, no nothing. And my distributor was like, how am I going to get the records to you, and how are you going to get them back to me? You know, I was like, okay.
Do you have a distributor in Europe?
Yeah, I work at Triple Vision.
Same
Oh,
with us.
okay, cool. Yeah. You know, they're
Super good. Super good.
He was like, but how are you going to get them back to us? Yeah, I'm like, good point.
Yeah.
You know?
You probably pay more taxes and
Dude.
transportation than they do.
But they're so nice that the guy who handles the shipping, I was like, I want to get some records to India, because I have a online shop called Odd Shop
Odd Shop.
that sells we do like that cushion that you're saying, like stupid stuff like that, you know.
Very cool.
Because you don't get this stuff in India.
We should
right?
take a picture. Yeah, we'll do this.
You know, I was like, we don't get this, we'll make it. Fuck it. You know.
Yeah.
So we make stupid stuff like that, and we also sell some vinyl and things.
Super cool.
You know.
So
So
cool.
yeah,
It's great. Yeah, and Treble Vision are great. Like
amazing. They've
I
been
would-
so supportive.
Yeah.
You know.
they're really good. They take care. They help you a lot.
Really, I really love working with them. They just like, and they're like musicians running,
Yeah.
you know, which is good.
Yeah.
It's
That's true.
yeah.
Yeah. This has been a pleasure. Thank you so much.